Oh boy, do I have an exciting one for y'all today. So you see on the lift behind me, we got a 2008 Yukon Denali. It showed up, it has a P0230 and a P0463 code. So the fuel pump's not working at all. The code is saying that the control relay is open or short. So I'm gonna jump straight to it, and I'm gonna show you the problem I found, and then I'll go over a couple easy things to check going into it. But let's go get underneath this thing. All right, so here we are, vehicle's in the air. We're walking in from under the driver's side at the rear tire here. I'm hoping that maybe this is gonna be a common issue point. And you can just jump right to it because this is taking a ton of testing to find. When we get under here, we're gonna follow the drive shaft up to the transfer case. Now, if you look over here, it's got the GM conduit that just crumbles and falls off over time. So when I was tracing this wire, this dark green and white wire is the relay control wire, right? It actually comes from the ECM. It does not go to the power distribution center. It runs directly from the ECM all the way back to your fuel pump control module, which sits back there above the rear tire. So trying to figure out where the continuity was, I found a little spot here that looked a little melted. It's directly above the drive shaft for the front axles, but it wasn't actually melted. But when I started tugging on it a little bit, you'll see up here on top of the transmission, all the conduit is falling off, and I got not one, not two, but 3 broken wires. They literally run all the way up here, right on top of the transmission. And one of those wires is the fuel pump control wire. Obviously, we're gonna fix all of them. I haven't decided how I'm gonna do that yet, so I'll let you know what I find there. But yeah, that is where the brakes were on this puppy that were causing the 230 code. And the other code was like the fuel level sensor code. They broke instantaneously on this lady, so that's strange. Apparently they filled it up, drove it home, parked it, went out the next morning, wouldn't start at all. So it's like overnight it broke. I've never seen anything like that. But yeah, here we go. I'm gonna get it fixed. I'll let you know how I do that. And then if you have already started doing some testing or haven't done any testing at all, just watch this next bit, because once I get it down from here, I will show you where to start. There are a handful of easy things you need to check first, and then get under and start looking. Another known problem point for the wiring is up this frame rail here, over kind of by where that shock is. You'll see the harness runs here, and it runs up behind on the other side of this frame. And apparently they also will corrode and break if you live up north in that area. But this one was fine there. So our problem was up here on top of the transmission, but it is indeed a broken wire. It is the dark green with a white stripe that you're looking for. All right, I found my solution here. It sucked, but it's not as bad as dropping the tranny. So let me show you what we got. So you'll see I pulled the entire harness running back and dropped it down right here on the side of the transmission in front of the exhaust. This allows me to easily get to my joint, to pull this back, clean these wires up, solder in extension pieces, and get everything put back together. I'm going to reconduit all of this because, I mean, look at that GM conduit. It just crumbles. I mean, it's all over the ground already. Now, in order to do that, you have this style plug here. This goes over the transmission and plugs into the transmission itself. You just literally put your thumb in there and rotate it in the counterclockwise direction until it is free. This plug here is at the end where our brakes were. So if you look up here above the fuel line, I'm not sure you can see it in the video, but it's right there. So I unplugged that. And this plug is right next to it and just plugs into this O2 sensor and clips in right here above this crossbar member. Then you just gotta get all the clips in the harness. One's here, one's way up there at the top, one is right here on the side, and then there's one on top of the transmission. You gotta get all those clips undone so you can shove your hand up in here and fish the wire through and get it to drop down. I would remove your drive shaft to the front, which I tried doing. You'll see this one's free and pushed over as far as it can. In order to move the drive shaft, you have to remove or drop the sway bar. And of course, on this bad boy, somebody stripped the absolute shikeys out of that one. So I can't get that thing out. That's gonna be a whole ordeal in its own right. So instead, I'm just gonna work around the drive shaft. It's like, I'm getting a little frustrated, but we're on the home stretch, so we're gonna be all right. Sometimes this kind of work is frustrating. Really only frustrated because when I walked in, I slammed right into this tire with my head, just turned around and Wish I had it on camera. It was terrible. But there you have it. That's how I'm going to fix it. Going to reconduit it all, put it back together. And then, yeah, so once I get this all done and buttoned up, I'll drop it down and I'll show you where to start in diagnosing this. Just the easy things to check, the fuses and whatnot. And then I'll start looking for break in the wire. And hopefully it is not in the same spot. All right, here we go. I got my wires all put back together. Some nice new conduit on them. Fuel tanks in. I'm getting ready to start this puppy for the first time. See, I even, let me turn this back on. See, I even had all this ECM tore apart down here, so I got new conduit on all that. Everything is good. This crusty conduit sucks, but just wanted to show you real quick over here before you even start looking for broken wires, which is most likely your problem with these codes. Check this 20 amp fuse over here. It's the very bottom one on the furthest right. That is your fuel pump control module fuse. And check this 10 millimeter one here. If you look, it's above, in between these relays, the bottom one down here, that is your ECM fuse. So just make sure you give those two a check, because it would be terrible if you're down there looking for broken wires and it turns out your fuse just blew for some reason. But yeah, otherwise, hopefully this helps somebody out. You don't gotta drop your tank and do a whole bunch of work. Maybe you can just find it. I think this transmission's been rebuilt before, so maybe they actually strung those wires in the incorrect location, so it had too much tension on it over time. But that drive shaft spot is a real issue, where it had rubbed, and I thought it was melted from heat. It was from friction from hitting the drive shaft. So make sure you start there and then work your way from that point. But yeah, that's helped you out. Hit that thumbs up button, comment if you got any questions, and thanks for watching.